All right, guys, we are back once again with the best 5 minutes of your day, and I have a really awesome session for you if you've been told that you have sciatica, but you're just not sure, if you're confused that maybe you have piriformis pain syndrome, or you just know that you have this burning, shooting, tingling pain that goes from your butt down to the bottom of your foot. I'm going to give you a few simple tests that you could do to help you understand whether your piriformis, a small muscle in your butt, is overactive, doing too much work, and might be pinching off on the most evil nerve in your entire body. Yes, piriformis syndrome is a thing, and I want to share with you these little tests that you could do to kind of identify whether it is your problem now or if you're setting yourself up for it. So first, when we talk about anatomy, it's kind of important to kind of understand where the piriformis is and how complicated it can be and the problems that it can create. And when we talk about the piriformis, it is a small muscle that lives deep in your buttock. All right? So to kind of demonstrate where it's at, I just kind of brought out one of these bands. The piriformis kind of attaches in this area in your butt. It kind of goes from your tailbone to the top of your leg. It gets to be a pretty stinking confusing muscle because it has a lot of jobs, it has a lot of roles in terms of human movement. Many runners will feel this when they're in what's called the stance phase. So basically that means they're on one leg. The piriformis muscle itself, its job is a few things, okay? It doesn't do just one thing. It kind of depends on where your leg is at to help you understand its role. So the piriformis, when your leg is this, when your hip is flexed like this, what it wants to help do is bring your knee in like this and then twist your foot out. When your leg behind you is extended, when it's back like this, what it wants to do is help rotate your knee out. So it gets to be a pretty stinking complicated muscle for you. Again, if you're feeling pain when you're on one leg, when you're running and walking, this is a good sign that maybe your piriformis is involved with it. If you're not sure, a few really simple tests that you could do look like this. So number one, from a lying position, when we take your leg and we stretch it out like this, and we ask you to twist your foot inward like this. If we rotate your foot, watch. If you take that foot and you kind of rotate it in, this gives you some pain in your butt cheek. Good chance that your piriformis is involved. Number two, if you're in a seated position like this, and we keep your toes straight ahead and we put your hands outside of your knee, and then I ask you to push your knees into your hands like this, and that gives you pain in the butt cheek, good chance that your piriformis is involved. Number three, if you take a strap like this and you wrap it around your foot like this, and when you straighten your leg and pull on your toe like this, you make a face like this and it hurts, there's a really good chance that your piriformis is involved in it. Your piriformis is tight. Now the problem with the piriformis, again, you kind of saw what the muscle looked like. This is actually a good representation of it because it's kind of the shape. The thing with the piriformis that makes it like such an issue is that the sciatica nerve actually travels either below it, or in a few people, it actually goes in the middle of it. When it gets tight and overactive, that sucker will push down on the sciatica nerve and it'll create those sensations. Again, it feels very much like sciatica, which for anyone that's had sciatica, you know it's unbearable. But the big difference is it starts off with the butt and shoots its way down. You can spend all sorts of time doing sciatica, stretches and drills, but if we're not addressing that piriformis, you're still going to have that pain and you're going to still have that problem. So a couple things that you could start to do to try to address this. I'll show you some progressive stretches, which are all really awesome. And when you do them the right way, they feel great. Either way, like if you don't have sciatica symptoms and you do these stretches and you notice that one side is tighter than the other, it's a good idea to start trying to even it out because you're setting yourself up for this problem. So stretch number one, the easiest way to go is just to go from your back. We're going to flex your hip. You're going to take your opposite hand and grab the outside part of your foot to try to rotate your foot. Then we'll use the same side hand, and we're gonna push your knee towards the opposite shoulder. Look, something like that right there. I'll get a little closer so you can see it. So again, back, hip flex, and we're pushing here and pulling here. And when you're doing this, it's important to try to use the inner thigh muscles to bring your knee towards your shoulder. So you're actually getting an active stretch right here. Again, this is some pretty awesome stuff. It's a really simple stretch to do and feels great. So that's kind of step number one. That's the first stretch. That's the most passive stretch. I like that a lot because you could really control your abilities to be able to move in and out of it, and you can apply more pressure. Again, statically, up to 2 minutes is pretty good, but if you're pretty tender there, go in intervals of 5 seconds. Pull the stretch for 5 seconds, relax for maybe another 5 seconds, and then just keep repeating. You're gonna see that it starts to loosen up. So that's kind of step number one. Step number two, we could add a little bit more pressure to this by doing something that maybe looks like this right here. Take that opposite foot, put it up onto a box to kind of set yourself up. Then you'll take your hands right through this hole that's created and just pull your knee towards your chest. This adds a lot more pressure into that tight glute on that side. So again, what it looks like from this side is if I'm right here, I'm just pulling. Again, this is a super good stretch to do. From this position, it's always a good idea to coach people into mobility. So you could just leave that ankle on that knee, and you could start working on some little toe taps. And this little stretch that you could do really helps lengthen out the glutes, but you could see it ties real nicely into your upper body and giving you this thoracic rotation. So if you look at this real quick, and I kind of do the super guy thing here, you go to this position, you can kind of see that this is walking and running, kind of starting to link the pieces together. So it's a pretty good idea to kind of finish off with those drills when you're on your back. Now, if you want to progress this even further and kind of take all these drills one more step, this stretch right here, I don't know if it could be beat in terms of how well it feels. And then when you hear the logic behind it, you're going to see how all the pieces tie together. As we progress more towards functional activities, we try to put our body in positions where we challenge the stabilizing muscles of our hips. So we can still work on stretching out that glute from this kind of quadruped position. Again, this is the side that I'm addressing. If you watch my ankle, I'm going to rotate my ankle in. Then I'm going to shift my hips over to that side and then drop my hips back. And this gives me a massive stretch in the back half of my glute. Right here, this feels pretty stinking good. One more time if I'm able to show you from the side here. We'll rotate the ankle in, shift over, drop back, and hold. Again, statically up to 2 minutes, but passively, actively we can kind of get in here and hold, in here and hold 3 to 5 seconds each time. This is pretty good stuff because if you take a look at this, that back ankle, you can see when I dig my foot into the ground, that back ankle, the back plantar fascia, everything is being stretched out. So that's pretty awesome. You can kind of combine all those drills together as you're kind of getting into fitness. One last thing that I'll share with you is how you could use that box, or in your life, maybe even a chair. A lot of people will get piriformis syndrome when they sit on a wallet, puts a lot of pressure on that muscle, which again, if you kind of remember the anatomy, pressure on the muscle smashes the nerve, shooting pain down your leg, not so good. So again, from the seated position, move the camera over just a little bit. One easy way that you can do this is if you're sitting on a box that lets your legs be close to a 90-degree angle, you could just put that knee at that 90-degree angle in the box, and then just rotate your chest around a little bit and get a really awesome stretch out of this. One thing that you want to make sure that you do is don't be too relaxed in your abdominals, okay? So I worked with an athlete yesterday where this is a big thing, weak core, so he did this, like, oh, there's no stretch, this feels great. But then as soon as you ask somebody to sit up tall and try to rotate, you get an incredible stretch out of this. So one more time, let me just show you, because I think this is pretty important and it gets missed a lot. Let me just show you real quickly. So let me just show you one more time what core off looks like. So when we do this stretch, if your core isn't on, and this is where a lot of people are going to be when they're limited in this ability to rotate their hip, you're not going to feel any stretch like this, okay? If I were to tell you to do this, you didn't feel it, you think I'm an idiot. right? But if you set yourself up the right way, you get your core involved, you add that rotation, you're gonna feel a massive stretch back here. And again, if the problem that you're having with piriformis pain is because you're sitting all day on a wallet or an elevated surface that's putting pressure on that piriformis, this is an awesome drill to know because you can start to rectify it during the day. And I love this. This feels stinking awesome. Okay? And if you're on a box, another one that I show a lot of is same idea with core. And then you could use that bottom leg as a driver. And this just kind of mobilizes everything one more time to keep that sucker nice and loose. There you go. If you've been suffering from a pain in your buttock that shoots down your leg and you've been told it's sciatica, there's a way to kind of understand that it's probably not sciatica, and more than a few things that you could do to address it to make it feel better. And even if you don't have those sensations, if you do those quick assessments and you start to notice that one side is a little bit different than another, then it's probably a good idea to do those stretches because you're setting yourself up for that problem. And trust me, if you like to do fitness, especially if you like to run, you don't want to have a piriformis that's mad at you because it will limit your abilities. Anyways, you guys got questions, comments, concerns about that or anything else? If you want me to just build you a plan, the Body Blueprint is on sale this weekend. Get it before Christmas. Let's get going. All right, take care, guys.